Yes, good morning, YouTube and Facebook. It is Friday, November the 16th. It's a little bit after 9 o'clock. I am back with another presentation for you. Now, before I get into the video, I just want to give a couple shout outs because these people kind of, spark the interest of the topic that I'm going to cover today. First off, I want to give a shout out to my cousin Petra. A few weeks ago, she had posted something on her page, and it was almost like a repost from a previous message, and the message was something along the lines of, how come whenever we go to a funeral, the person that's dead, everybody says, oh, they're in a better place, so I guess hell must be empty, huh? And my cousin Petra, she reposted it to something along the lines of, yeah, I've alluded to the same thing, or I may have asked the same thing, and I got popped in the mouth by my mom. So I want to give a shout out to her. Then another person I want to give a shout out to is Brother Augustus. Because he had posted something, I want to say maybe a week or two ago, where it says that, where he mentioned that everybody wants to go to heaven, but nobody wants to serve God. Ain't that the truth? So you see the topic, and it's posed in a question: does everybody go to heaven? And now, before I get into the video, I just want to make a disclaimer. This is not going to be one of those videos where it's going to be kill the messenger. I'm just putting the information out there. It may be somebody that's a little bit confused. Somebody would actually like to know the answer to that. And then there are those who may even benefit from that information, who actually want to apply it to their lives. So why not give the information out? Now, there's always going to be some in the group that's going to, criticize and chastise, say, hey, get out of here with that mess. Nobody wants to hear it. Hey, this is not a video where I'm bashing a group of people. This is just me simply just putting the information out there, or should I say putting the truth out there, because there are a lot of people who may be a little bit confused on this question here. So I'm just putting the truth out there. Now, I can already tell this is going to have to be a part. I'm going to have to do two parts to this. The first part, I'm going to cover some Old Testament examples of this question here. And then for part two, I'm going to cover some New Testament examples. And then I'm going to also cover some other areas that need to be cleared up. So that's today's question. Do all people go to heaven? What do you think? What do you think? Just let that tickle your brain for a second. What do you think? You got an idea? Do all people go to heaven? No. Let's get that out the way. Do most people go to heaven? According to Scripture, no. Do the people you like, whether it be family members, people, friends, people you spend time with, maybe even some people that you look up to, maybe some people that we've read about in history, do all of them go to heaven? Like I said, going back to Scripture, no. You want to find out the answer? Let me give you the short version real quick. Just go to Matthew 7. Matthew 7, starting at verse 13. Matthew chapter 7, starting at verse 13. Enter through the narrow gate, for the wide is the gate, is broad that leads to, is the road that leads to destruction, and many are going to enter into it. But small is the gate, narrow is the road that leads to life, and only a few would find that. Come on, talk to me. Talk to me here. How much is a few? How much is a few? How many people we got on this earth? About 7 billion, maybe a little bit over 7 billion people on this earth. So what does a few mean to you? Couple thousand? 10,000? Couple 100,000? 1 million, 3 million. So that should automatically let you know that this is not going to be something that's going to be easy to do. Now, I want to touch on a couple of Old Testament scriptures that kind of alludes to this subject. Now, if y'all will go we're gonna go way back in Genesis chapter 6. Y'all read this story. For those who may not have read it, you may have heard this story about how God flooded the earth, right? Now, let me get my paper out here. Oh yeah, I got some notes because I want to make sure that I'm accurate. I got some notes here, best believe. Genesis chapter 6, start at verse 5. Now it says that I'm going to just give a background. I'm going to just give a little background of a story here, a little synopsis here. God saw how wicked mankind was getting. It got to the point where he regretted making mankind. That's what it says in scriptures. He regretted that he made human beings because of things that got so bad. So God said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to wipe out human beings from the face of this earth. Now, for those of you who, oh, God is so loving. He's so kind. He's so merciful. I'm not going to argue with you on that. I'm not going to argue with you with that. But guess what? He is just. He does show his wrath. And if we get on God's bad side, you think he's not going to deal with us the same way? People want to talk about the good side. They don't want to talk about the bad side. What happens when we get on God's bad side, when we part of his wrath? Nobody wants to talk about that. Now, back to the story. Now, there was one man out of all those people, and you know his name, it's Noah, who found favor because he was righteous and blameless. One guy out of all those people. So God makes a covenant with him. He gives him instructions. I need you to make an ark. I'm about to flood the earth. Everything's going to be destroyed. But guess what? You and your family could be saved. So you know what? I need you to make an ark. This is how I want you to make it. This is all the details that I want you to put inside the ark. And 120 years is going to go by. And then I'm going to flood the earth. Now, the whole time that Noah was making that ark, right? You would think that people would ask, hey, what are you doing? Oh, I'm making an ark because, you know, God is getting ready to destroy the earth with the flood. So what do you think people, how do you think people responded to that? The same way people respond nowadays. Oh, get out of here. That ain't going to happen. I'm okay. I'm living my life. Everything is good. I am good, family. You go ahead and take care of what you got to do. I'm just going about my business. For 120 years, nobody took Noah seriously. Noah and his family went inside the ark. Noah took all the animals that he was instructed to do so to go inside the ark with him. God closed the door shut. It rained for 40 days and 40 nights. Y'all know the end of that story. Now, out of all those people on the earth, how many people you think were saved? Noah, his wife, his 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. So his 3 sons, and then all of their wives. That's 8 people. 8 people. Let that sink in for a minute. Only 8 people were saved. Remember how we talked about in Matthew? Only the narrow gate and only a few was going to find it? Only 8 people. Let that sink in. And when it started raining, people saw that big ark, so they figured, oh, I'm gonna make a boat just like that. How many other boats do you think made it in the flood? That's another video for another day. But that just goes to show you what's going to take place this time around. Now, I'm going to give you another example because, boom, we got the flood that's covered. 8 people survived. God pretty much started over, right? Now, if you go to Numbers, if you can remember in Numbers, chapter 14, starting at verse 26. God's people were enslaved in Egypt. God let them out of Egypt to start heading to the promised land, right? The land of Canaan, the land of milk and honey, right? Now, it was approximately about 600,000 Israelites. More specifically, a little bit over 600,000 of men, of people that were above age 20, that were 20 and older. And then the rest of them were children, right? Teenagers and children. Now, out of those 600 people that came out of Egypt, over 600,000, how many of them do you think made it to the promised land? Since we talking about only a few here. How many of them do you think made it? Out of everybody that was 20 and older, out of that over 600,000 people, you want to know how many people made it? 2. See, we think God be playing. God is not playing with us. 2 people made it. And it says their name. It said Caleb and Joshua were the only 2 that made it. And those verses that I just gave you in Numbers chapter 26:32, God told them exactly what was going to happen to the rest of them. He said, you know what? You guys are going to all drop dead in the wilderness because you're a sinful community. You're grumbling against me. I'm not going to put up with it any longer. You're not going to make it over there. And isn't it interesting how there were family members that was there? There were mothers and fathers, brothers and sisters that was part of that over 20 age group. Grandmother, grandfather, your next door neighbor, people that you knew growing up, people that you've been knowing for years, didn't make it. So what does that say for you and me? How many of us is going to make it? And then if you go to Joshua, that just confirms that only Joshua and Caleb were the only 2 adults that made it out of Canaan. So you want to, okay, well, dang, Omar, how come only 2 people made it that were 20 and older and the rest didn't? Why do you think? Because they were obedient. They did everything God asked them to do, without giving an attitude, without thinking, oh, I can do something better. That's how they made it. Now, I'm going to just stop right there, because that's just part 1. I'm going to just let that just kind of tickle your brain a little bit. Now, we want to cover some of the New Testament scriptures on this subject in part 2, and then we're going to cover some other areas as well. So you just make sure you sit back, get your popcorn ready for part 2. I'll catch y'all later. Peace.